It's a very fascinating event this morning. I confess that has been planned, organized hastily with a short notice, and I welcome the team of Expeditionary 53. That is here, not all the team, that is only one missed, but we have 5 or 6 cosmonauts, and we have, of course, our friend and army colleagues at that time, Paolo Nespoli, but let me say to welcome first the Commander, Randy Bresnik. Thank you, Commander, for being here. The flight engineers, Mark van der Ey. Welcome, Mark. Flight engineer Joseph or Joe Akaba. All 3 from the United States, and from the Russian Federation, flight engineer Sergei Ryazansky. And of course, Paolo Nespoli from Italy. So let me say thank you for coming, for being here, and thank you for the representative of the Chief of Defense, the Minister of Defense, that today the Minister is out, the Chief of Defense is out, but also for the previous Army Staff, Chief of the Army Staff present here, General Angioni as well, and I can tell you that General Angioni will have a little part at the end of this very brief meeting. Welcome to all the representatives. I think there are from United States Embassy as well, I think, or representative from United States and Russian Federation. I think they should be, yes, okay, thank you for coming. And of course, from the other representatives, the media, the journalists, and let me say to you that I invited a group of young captain, NCOs, and graduated soldiers from the Italian Army serving also in the area, that I think that this event is, of course, very much inspiring for the young generation. I think that your flight, your experience in the Expedition 53, for many of you, all of you, or some of you, I don't know, has been the highest point of culmination of a career, of experience, of a challenge, of achievement, of the hope and to achieve something over the horizon, and in order to bring the humankind to new frontier as well. It's a great satisfaction. You can tell us what were problems, sensation, satisfaction, achievement, and so on. I would like to underline only 3 things. The first is the one that I mentioned, that you are, all of you, and your colleagues that were flying and going to space before, and the one that will go after you, you are a role model, a greatest example of how the humankind can face challenges and can go over and over, discovering new frontier. You are a role model for the young generation to dream, to believe in something, to sacrifice yourself for something, and to be, useful for the future generation. And this is the first thing. The second, I would like to say, is the great cooperation. This is the best, I think, one of the best meanings of this kind of achievement. Also, this mission is to have the Russian representative, the American representative cooperating, and Italian, of course, but even in time of some misunderstanding or some different point of view, we have seen the unity, the extraordinary unity and cooperation. And this is another great message of peace, of cooperation, of progress of humanity. And then I will leave the third, and I will stop here because, the time is short, and I think that they have something better to say to you. The third is related to Paolo, if you don't mind. To Paolo Nespoli, I was lucky, I told them before, that I had the opportunity to meet him when I was in Latwil in 82 January, attending a ski mountain downhill course, and absolutely I didn't know who was Paolo at that time, but I understood he was in another team. I think Federico was with us at that time, and I noticed that the Thai commander of the Folgore Brigade, visiting them beside us, was pointing, speaking, Paolo, you are this, and that. This is a good boy, a good guy. And and I found himself, believe me or not, in my real hometown. He's an honor citizen of my hometown, and because he received a prize in the same evening, but he was in a video conference as well. I was present there. I said, it's him. I said, after 30 years, I think that I had the opportunity to meet him, not physically. So, but Paolo is a sign of our value. The value of the Italian Army, the Italian Armed Forces. Is the living person representing the real spirit of the airborne, of the Folgore Brigade, of the Italian Army, of everyone, young and experienced men and women that serve within the Italian Army. Really, we are proud of you, and let me say that I believe that you, last Saturday, when the Luogotenente Tresoldi just made a very great jump and landed with millimetric precision in front of the President of the Republic, amongst 20,000 people, was and has been one of the greatest card of presentation of the Italian Army. And I think that this value just transform in practical effect. And I think that the Folgore Brigade, alongside all the other brigades, we are proud of our unit, our experience, our value. And let me say, this is an example for us, and also a push to make even better and do more together in the future. So thank you, Paolo, because you are a living representation of the value of the Italian Army, let me say, of the Italian country as well. And I stop here. I leave the floor to you. Thank you so much. I will enjoy along the other. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Faccio una breve introduzione, un saluto, un ringraziamento in italiano, poi passiamo in inglese. Grazie al Capo di Stato Maggiore per averci invitato qua oggi, per averci messo a disposizione le strutture dell'Esercito per portare l'equipaggio in Italia e farci vedere l'Italia e farci vedere che anche noi riusciamo a fare le cose. Grazie al precedente Capo di Stato Maggiore, c'è una folta numero di generali, di persone che qua ci hanno sempre voluto bene, quindi voglio ringraziare tutti per averci tenuto sempre, per averci considerato della nostra famiglia, di averci tenuto sempre in ottima considerazione. Ora, quello che volevamo fare è una mezz'oretta, 35 minuti, una presentazione veloce della spedizione 35, che è la spedizione sulla stazione spaziale internazionale nella quale noi abbiamo preso parte. La faremo in inglese e cercheremo di parlare un po' tutti. Nell'ottima tradizione non abbiamo mai fatto questa cosa assieme, quindi la faremo oggi qui questa mattina, sperando che tutto funzioni, perché paradossalmente vivi assieme in orbita per 6 mesi, fai addestramento per 3 anni e poi una volta atterrati non ci siamo mai più visti ed è la prima volta che ci troviamo tutti assieme, quindi va bene. All right, so are we ready? Gatov? Yeah? Ce l'abbiamo qui il microfono? Tutto a posto? Ok, benissimo. Malissimo. Allora, Randy, go, take it.
All right, so I started off as a Marine Corps F-18 pilot and then became a test pilot flying everything I could get my hands on. And I was fortunate to sit in a desk next to an Italian Air Force test pilot going through test pilot school, Alessandro De Lorenzo. And we formed this great friendship and was able to come over here to Italy and visit with him and ride motorcycles on the streets of Rome. So that was one of my favorite memories of Italy. But unfortunately, none of the airplanes that I flew anywhere in the world were going fast enough to get to orbital velocities, so I had to become an astronaut.
And while Randy was busy flying all sort of aircraft, if he could get a handle of, I was busy in jumping off aircraft. So we kind of were in the similar but different paths here. So yeah, my beginning of my career when I was a young guy was drafted by the Army and then ended up working for the Special Forces. It was the beginning of a moment that told me that if you train well, if you have a good people, if you understand things, if you have the right equipment, you can really go far. And eventually I got through and became an astronaut after that.
So again, my name is Joe Akaba, and I joined NASA in 2004. My background is in geology, but the one unique thing is I was a middle and a high school teacher before I became an astronaut. So I was teaching school in Florida, and NASA wanted to hire some educators to become full-time astronauts. So that's when I started, how I became an astronaut, and this was my third flight with these gentlemen here. Thank you.
Just because I'm short, I need to stand up so I can see people's faces. I recently retired as an Army officer. My very first assignment in the Army was in Vicenza, so I got to spend 3 wonderful years starting off in the Army in Italy, and I had no idea that the rest of the Army wasn't as wonderful as...
I'm a Russian Roscosmos cosmonaut, and honestly, I'm only scientist in Russian Cosmonaut Corps, and there are several of such scientists in NASA. That was my second flight, but first time scientist was assigned as commander of Soyuz, so I'm really lucky that I had so nice and experienced crew with me.
Sergei was obviously the smart one, and with a Marine on the crew, we had to raise the average intelligence, and so that was why Sergei was there.
Some of us had the opportunity to be selected early and be able to fly on the space shuttle. I flew on space shuttle 120, Joe flew on 119, Randy flew on 129. So there was a lot of opportunities there to learn things. There it is, 129. And while we were busy doing that, also Sergei flew in space on a long-duration mission and actually had the opportunity of exchanging the Olympic torch in space. So that's the longest relay, right?
Yeah, that was my first flight in 2013.
Very good. The space shuttle was an incredible machine. Take it, Randy.
And we were up there, to finish up the assembly of the space station before the shuttle stopped flying. As you can see, the space station is the size of a soccer field, a football field. It's massive with these solar arrays that track the sun. The habitable compartments all line up down the center. It's been up there for 20 years, and it's been manned continuously with humans for the last 18 years. And so there are students all over the world graduating from high school who've never known a day in their life where there's not a human being in space. The most inhospitable place known to man. And so we train, fortunately, here in Italy. We get to go to Sardinia. And with ESA, in cooperation with the 9th Special Forces Parachute Regiment, allowed us to be able to go and train for weeks underground in the caves of Sardinia, in an environment that is very, very different than any of us have ever lived, where there's no sunlight, so we don't know what time it is. The temperature is always constant. These are factors that are exactly the same as they are on the space station. Because we have sunrises and sunsets every 45 minutes, you can't look outside and know what time of day it is, whether it's lunchtime or it's time to go to bed or time to wake up. And so we go to extreme environments to get people used to getting them out of their comfort zone as if you're doing your first parachute jump or your first halo jump or your first underwater navigation. We use the underground in Sardinia as one option, and the other one is when we go to off the coast of Florida and live in the Aquarius habitat for underwater, where there's safety is not going to the surface if you have a problem with your equipment. Safety is relying on your buddies and your safety equipment to get back inside the habitat, because we are doing saturation diving, and you can't just go to the surface because that will kill you. And so these are environments we go to get people prepared for space, because it's so different. Maybe perhaps if they've been to one or two of these, when they go to space, it won't be such a shock physically or mentally to their system.
Yeah, I would like to point out that this is a very important training, because it allows you to work in an environment that is not familiar to you. But this came as a direct cooperation between the European Space Agency and the Italian Army, the 9th Regiment Special Forces. And with them, we went into these crazy places, which are still crazy, by the way. So, you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, of course we have some sort of survival training or team building training before Soyuz flights. It's one of them is winter survival. You know that in real history there were a couple cases when it was useful after landing. So that's also one of the main point when you can check your crew and build crew relations that will be really helpful during the real flight.
And
of course there is water survival. Big chance if we will land on our planet due to emergency, it will be water landing. So also we're training to land on water and survive in water conditions.
So the Soyuz capsule is only this big. So you can imagine 3 of you in a full pressure suit trying to get out of your pressure suit and into that survival equipment that we were wearing during the water and winter survival. You don't have room to take off your own pants or your own flight suit, and so you have to rely on your crewmates to go ahead and help you with that.
To take off your pants, right?
And everything. And
hey,
so
it was our secret.
Yes, you learn things about your crewmates you hope someday to forget during that training.
So, of course, a lot of our training also happens in the United States. What you're seeing in these pictures is robotics training here, which uses a Canadian robotic arm. But the prior pictures showed us some emergency training. The biggest emergencies, the 3 emergencies we could have on the space station are a fire, a rapid depressurization of the spacecraft, or a toxic atmosphere. Ammonia could be leaked into the station. So we train a lot as a group, ideally with 6 of us all together, to work out how we'll deal with those situations.
And then we have what we call the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, which is a really, really big swimming pool that we have in Houston that you can see there. And we have a full-scale model of the International Space Station. So this is where we train to do the spacewalks. It's about as close as you can get to feeling that floating microgravity type environment. So they'll put us in the water early in the morning. We go down around 9 a.m. They strap weights on you and try to get you neutrally buoyant. A normal spacewalk is about 6 to 7 hours. So we go down in the pool at around 9 a.m. and come back up at 3 p.m. So it's a long day, but the training is excellent.
And this picture represents our mood when we already passed all exams and we're following our tradition before going to Baikonur. We're visiting Red Square to show our respect to our ancestors that built Soviet and then Russian cosmonaut industry, space industry. So these are, of course, our families. Without their support, it would be impossible to do what we are doing every day. So we're really grateful to our families, spouses, and kids.
And then we go down to Baikonur in Kazakhstan, the Cosmodrome, where we go into quarantine with our backup crew in case we need to be replaced for the flight. And the quarantine is so that we do not bring any illnesses up to the space station because there's a crew that has been up there for 3 months and they've been germ-free for that entire time. We do fit checks on our equipment just like you would do before a parachute jump or any operational deployment, making sure all your equipment works. We finally get our hands on our actual equipment. They take the spacecraft and attach it to the rocket, put it on the rail car, and then roll the rail car out to the launch pad in the horizontal position. And then when it gets out to the launch pad, it actually gets put into the vertical position or the launch position. And you can see up at the top, there's very, very little room to spare. But this was the same launch pad that Yuri Gagarin launched out of. And so for decades, they've been putting Soyuz and launching them out of here and never scraped a rocket once. So then for us, it was launch day, the 28th of July last year. And 3 of us got in there. We're like little slices of pizza wedged in there amongst all our survival equipment in the tiny capsule. And our feet are all meeting under the hatchway in a very small area. And you can see right in there is where your legs are basically right where your seats would be. And you're sitting in this position for about 6 hours till we finally get to orbit. And so this is so now when we fly economy class in the airlines, no problem. This is much worse. And when the engines finally light for the rocket to launch, you're so happy, not because you know that in 9 minutes you'll be in orbit, you know that in 9 minutes your legs and your hips will stop hurting.
But you can imagine that after liftoff, only 538 seconds and you're in weightlessness. You're on orbit.
Which is 8.5 minutes, more or less. And of course, our launch was the most beautiful one, right, that happened in the last years.
For sure.
Everybody said that. But 8.5 minutes we were in space. And then it took us another couple of hours before we actually docked to the space station.
So this was only 6 hours after launch. We've gone from 0 to 17,500 miles per hour, or 28,000 kilometers per hour. We're docked with the space station at about hour number 23 after we have woken up. So it's been a very, very long day, and you have to rely on your stamina and your training to be able to get you through that very long day.
And now from a little spacecraft, there we are in the International Space Station, which feels really, really big. I mean, the station is about the size of an 80 square meters apartment, which is not that big for 6 people, but when you are in space, you are in 3D, and everything feels much better, even though the station is busy, almost as busy as this room, where there are books all over the place. But you can imagine if there would be books up there and books here, and you can actually go around and pick any book you want anywhere without problems.
And so we joined Expedition 52. We had an American Jack Fisher, an Air Force pilot. We joined Fyodor Yurchikhin on his 5th flight. He left space station with 673 days over all those 5 flights in space. And then Peggy Whitson set a new record for Americans in space at 665 days. Now, Paolo, the most experienced crew member on our flight, 313 days by the time he came back. He's now the European with the second most amount of time in space. And Sergei was no slouch with, 308? 308 days at the conclusion of his. I was the slacker because I flew a shuttle mission and then this, so I have only 150 days.
So Randy insisted that we had to have an Hawaiian shirt of Happy Friday. How was the story there?
Aloha Fridays.
Aloha Friday.
Yes.
This is because as a Marine spent a lot of time in Japan and learned this.
In Hawaii.
In Hawaii. Oh, in Hawaii. In
Yes.
Hawaii and Japan. And so we had to have the Aloha Friday there.
So those are our space Hawaiian shirts to build a little camaraderie amongst the crew. And you have to get used to the fact that, like Paolo said, the ground is not the ground. If you wanted a book on the top shelf, you just push off the ground and float up to the top. And this is how we got to work every day.
And you pay attention there not to hit anything. So you better, hang on and fly away there. Joe, talk a little bit about the experiments there or something.
Yeah, so the main reason we're on the International Space Station is to conduct science in this very unique environment. And half of the studies that we do are to benefit life on Earth. So we're experimenting on different pharmaceuticals. We're learning about the human body. And the other half is for NASA and our partners to learn about exploration. How are we going to get past the moon onto Mars? And so we do a wide variety of experiments. One of the main ones I worked with was called Veggie, where we were growing plants in space. If we're going to get to Mars, we can't take all of our food, so we need to learn how to do that. It was awesome because we got to harvest the plants, and it was one of the best dinners that we had on the space station.
Mark, you want to talk a little bit about maintenance?
So every Saturday was house cleaning morning for us, so just in case you want to reinforce to your children that it's important to clean the house. We do it in space as well. We had to vacuum filters. You can imagine anything like dust, skin particles, things like that. They flow along with the airflow and end up in filters, so you need to clean those filters. There's cleaning the bathroom is also very important. We've got to wipe down a lot of surfaces and handrails. And the space station, even though it's getting old, it looks very pristine. It's a very clean environment.
Randy?
And so we have to do modifications to the space station. It's been there 20 years, and we have brand new space vehicles coming up with the Boeing company and the SpaceX Dragon. And so we had to do a lot of modifications in the front part of the space station to accept these new vehicles that weren't even thought of 20 years ago when we built the space station.
Yeah, the point is that, we all think that astronauts are great scientists and we do all sorts of crazy science. The fact is that while it's true that we are the hands of the scientists on Earth that think about this experiment and we execute them, it turns out, though, that we spend a lot of time as guinea pigs, so you are the experiment, or it turns out that you need to learn to be the electrician, the plumber, you need to be the space crane operator. So I always said a good astronaut is a person that is able to do almost anything, whatever it is. Somebody gets sick, guess who's going to be the doctor? You have animals and you have to take care of the animals, so do experiments. Guess who's going to be the veterinarian there? So it's always you, and that's why the training on the space station lasts so long. But you end up being there. It's a crazy day because you may wake up, talk to the president of something, then spin around and do an experiment on fluid physics, and then you fix something broken, and then you do another experiment, and you then talk to school, and it's all day like that. It's very interesting work there.
So we have about 2.5 hours every day scheduled for exercise. The exercise is typically an hour and a half scheduled for what I would call resistive training. It simulates lifting weights, but weightlifting doesn't really work. So we rely on expanding a vacuum cylinder as a way to apply a force.
That's a guy doing the weightlifting in a space where there is no weight.
And then in the foreground, you can see the treadmill. So we get about an hour every day for cardiovascular training, either running on this treadmill you see here or doing an ergometer, like an exercise bike. You can imagine if you step on the treadmill without bungee cords, you're just going to push yourself away, so that won't work very well. So we've got bungee cords, and you can adjust the bungee cords to determine how much force, how much weight you want to simulate on your body.
One of our qualifications also is a space crane operator. As we said, we catch with this robotics station and the arm, we catch the supply vessels. Every month, more or less, we have a new supply. We had brand new vessels that are in the future going to be helping us for going to the moon, going to Mars, doing a lot of things. We have Russian vehicles, American vehicles, SpaceX. So it's a very complex, highly operational environment, not many different than what you experience. And
so this was a toy that was very popular in America and maybe other places called the fidget spinner this last year. And so I was able to take that up to space, and as a way to connect with young children, something that's very tangible to them, and they know how it works on the ground here, but to show them how it works in space and zero gravity was a way to connect with them.
Yeah, because space, another thing is that you end up talking to school, to kids, and to talk to them about science, technology, math, not only, giving them a little bit of a role model, and this is a way to engage them.
Sure. So in Expedition 53, we had 3 spacewalks. comrade went on every single one and led the way for Joe and I to do those. Paolo was operating the robot arm, and Sergey was checking on us to make sure everything was okay every chance he got. In fact, one of the neat things about working along with the Russians is every chance they got, they found a way to help out. And when we got done with the spacewalk, we were very tired, the whole team on the U.S. segment. And for example, they would make sure they had dinner ready for us when we came back. The work was largely on those spacewalks, fixing that Canadian robotic arm I mentioned earlier.
And so this is Mark, 250 or 400 miles or 400 kilometers above the Earth with nothing below him. And so if you look in this next video, you can see the view that we have when we come out of the hatch. You have to exit looking down at nothing. And so it doesn't matter if it's your first spacewalk or your 5th or your 10th spacewalk. You get the same feeling that you would have if you went up to the balcony here and stood up on the railing and leaned over from the building. You get that feeling in your body. You have that when you're in space. You have to overcome it and rely on your training to give you the muscle memory to reach where you need to reach, put your tethers down where you need to put yourself in place, and then be able to get your body, force it to calm down to be able to go do the work that you need to do. And so the next picture, we'll go ahead and show you Mark and the view that he had as he was working, changing one of our cameras, and he's riding a foot restraint that Paolo is flying on the inside. And we're flying over South America. Well, this is a picture Sergey took, and up there in the top corner is Mark riding the robotic arm, and you can see how massive the space station is compared to the size of the people. And this is only half of the space station. This is the left side, or the port side for all our naval friends, and the starboard side is a whole matching this on the right side. And this is the view that we had to force ourselves not to look upon all the time, and while we're doing our work, and we had to concentrate. And every once in a while we got a moment to look at the Earth, and we're going 10 kilometers every second. And you can see how fast the Earth is moving underneath us while we're out there. And you can see also the Earth is not flat. It's definitely round.
So I think we've mentioned it a few times, but apart from the science, it's really important for us to inspire the next generation of explorers, the next leaders in the sciences. So the type of outreach varies. This was one that was called Story Time. So anybody that has children know what it's like, how important it is to read your books to kids. So it was one that we took part of, just trying to motivate them, show them a reading book in a new environment. So again, just trying to make that connection with students.
And we were fortunate enough to be able to do a certain number of public events. We talked to President Mattarella, talked to the Vice President of the United States. You guys talked to who did you?
School kids.
School kids
yeah.
and everything. And we had the opportunity to talk to Pope Francis. So it's official. The Pope talked to some extraterrestrial people. It was us. And in fact, we are going to go in about an hour to visit him on a private audience and meet him in person. It was a very interesting moment, but there were also educational things. So
Where many times the students would have questions, and we'd be able to do a video conference with them. They'd be able to see us. So this young man is asking if it's possible to do 1-finger push-ups in space. And so Joe and I are up there talking with this school. And so we got the opportunity to show him what it's like. And so we'll start off with showing what a regular push-up looks like in zero gravity. You can see how easy it is to just move around and change your orientation. So we're doing regular two-handed push-ups. And then we go to one-handed push-ups, very strong. And then you'll see we go to the 1-finger push-up. So like special forces, But the Marines are very strong, so we can actually do no-handed push-ups. But also, we're showing kids that the floor is not always the floor. The rules are not always the rules. There are things that you can dream of that change your paradigm. And we show them that, hey, the ceiling can be the floor can be the ceiling. It doesn't matter in space. And so things that they dream of can happen.
So, go ahead.
So we had tens of thousands of people all over the world, including many here in Italy who built the modules that we were living in the nodes, in the cupola, in the lab. And this is our mission control team, but there's also the ESA mission control in Oberpfaffenhofen. And we had the JAXA mission control. We had the SOUP in Moscow that we talked to every day that all had to work. And these people allowed us to do our job, and this was them joining in with us on our Aloha Friday.
Yes, that's the Aloha Friday called by our space station commander, and mission control responded.
So you can imagine being isolated from the rest of humanity with only 5 other people. Socializing together is very important. And we had a tradition of every Friday or Saturday night, either the Russian side would host a meal or the U.S. and its partners would host a meal. So this is us just getting together and enjoying each other's company on a probably Friday or Saturday night.
Sergey, you want to talk a little bit about meal or something quickly?
Space meal is not like whole one, but still tasty and useful. Mostly we have metal cans or sublimated dry food. So you need just to add water, to wait for 15 or 20 minutes, and it's ready.
This was a special meal that we prepared that evening. It was Thanksgiving, a very important holiday for the Americans. We had a little bit of salad that we harvested, and we could
thanks
not
to
have.
Joe.
Yeah, thanks to Joe, and we could not have candles, so we printed out the candles things, and we put it up there because, of course, we could not have anything there. And at a certain point during a PAO, an event with the space station manager, I complained that there is no pizza on station, and they sent up with the next vehicle a few ingredients so we could make pizza.
That's Italian science.
Yeah.
So like Mark had mentioned, the socializing is a big aspect of working together as a crew. The schedule is super, super busy almost every day, so we would pick one night at least a week just to have movie night. And there's no better theater than the International Space Station. So here we are kicking back, and it's pretty cool. The seats are bungee cords that are strapped along a handrail, so you just kind of float, and that is holding you down. So it was pretty cool, and we were fortunate enough to actually see Star Wars in space, and that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think we will stop here. The space station is an incredible laboratory. We take time in the evening to, in our spare time, to go to the window, take some pictures. There are incredible things happening there. We use it for resting, social media, other stuff. This is by the way, the eclipse, the solar eclipse. And we can learn a lot from our planet up there. You know, we saw everything. I said we stop and I keep talking, but okay. It's going to go
It'll
quick.
stop.
Yeah. So we saw a lot of things, fires in California and things like that. It's a very good educational tool. I think everybody who flies in space becomes a better terrestrial, a better human being. So everybody should go up there and come back.
And speaking of better human beings, General, thank you for your kind introduction about Paolo, where this young Italian special forces operator you called good boy. Well, he's still a good boy. He's just a little more experienced. And aside from being the second most experienced European in space, he also has the record of being the oldest human being to launch into space, and he launched when he was 60 years old last year. And as you could look at him now, obviously very good, clean living in Italy has allowed him to be able to do this, astronaut job at the age of 60 years old. So thank you.
Thank you for the publicity. Yes, and 139 days in space, and it was time to come back quickly.
And landing in Kazakhstan, and honestly, landing it's like half an hour, breathing calmly, and main thing that we are going home to our families, to our specialists with whom we were working. So this is our successful landing.
The Russian called this a soft landing. It's not really soft.
Soft landing.
But then, yeah, it's a soft landing. But if you say something and say, "Are you alive?" then it was soft. Okay, that's barely make the cut. But we were there, happy to be back home. All right. think we'll stop here. We'll have a little bit of time for some questions, right? Is that correct? Who's in charge here?
If there are any questions, just please come forward. Otherwise, there is Gian Gioni that he was the commander of Paolo in 82 in Lebanon, and he would like to make and to tell us some anecdotes so you can learn more about Paolo.
Thank you very much. I think in question time. Yeah. Ma cercherò di essere veloce, and I apologize. I will speak in Italian just because of time, but later Paolo will tell you everything. Io sono chiamato così all'improvviso, questo è uno scherzo che solo lo Stato Maggiore dell'Esercito si può verificare per testare la capacità di reazione. Sì, è vero, Paolo era con noi in Libano e io l'ho scoperto, pur avendo comandato il battaglione, allora battaglione paracadutisti, sabotatori paracadutisti. Lui era un giovane sergente, ma in Libano avevo delle persone di valore, quindi c'avevo i bersaglieri, la Marco, la fanteria meccanizzata, un battaglione logistico di primissimo ordine inventato così sul momento, e poi avevo una compagnia di incursori oltre ai carabinieri paracadutisti, quindi avevamo uno spessore abbastanza valido. Prima di partire naturalmente successe qualcosa è la prima volta, tutto arraffato, e io mi meravigliai perché quando il capo di Stato Maggiore dell'Esercito dell'epoca mi disse andiamo a salutare il ministro, io ero colonnello, ero capo ufficio operazioni, e naturalmente avendo assunto, stato già valutato, primo, eccetera eccetera, dovevo indossare i gradi, andavo a comandare una brigata e quindi preavvertirono il ministro. Allora viene il generale Gioni a salutare. Generale, come generale? Ma avete detto che era un colonnello, mandiamo un colonnello. No, ma siccome lui è stato già valutato, promosso e così, quindi mette i gradi. No, sembra una promozione sul campo, assolutamente no, deve partire da colonnello. E io mi risolto i gradi, mi sono messo in tasca e sono partito così, vedendo la preparazione dell'epoca. E lì scoprì Paolo. Lo scoprì perché il presidente libanese volle che ogni comandante di contingenza avesse una scorta del suo paese, perché non voleva avere scrupoli. E quindi io scelsi 2 incursori. Tra l'altro mi servivano. Perché? Perché la situazione era così nebulosa e pericolosa da un punto di vista internazionale, per cui pretesi dal comandante della compagnia incursori che mi desse un incursore bravo come fotografo, perché tutto il resto erano tutti bravi, non c'era problema. Io volevo un fotografo bravo per fissare eventuali situazioni incerte che avrebbero potuto determinare crisi di carattere internazionale. E mi arrivò Paolo, molto freddo. Sì, faceva il suo, ma distaccato. E io mi resi conto che non era molto contento. Infatti poi dopo circa una settimana di attività notturna, diurna, eccetera, dissi non mi sembri molto soddisfatto. No, non lo sono affatto, mi disse lui. Non è stata preparata, quindi non lo sa quello che racconto. E perché non si prepara? Perché mi sono arruolato nell'esercito italiano per fare l'incursore, non per fare fotografo. No. Ma comunque per fare il fotografo con me rischi molto di più che fare l'incursore. Sì, ma la cosa non mi soddisfa. Beh, intanto lo fai. E fece benissimo il fotografo per 3 mesi. Poi avevamo organizzato un centro, che avevamo l'ufficio arabo, per captare di notte tutte le informazioni che potevamo avere, le intercettazioni radio, eccetera. E siccome parlava l'inglese ed era così, il capo di questa organizzazione, altro merito, mi disse: no, comandante, mi deve dare quello, perché lui è bravo. E quindi lui andò nell'ufficio arabo, lo chiamavamo. Le cose andarono avanti e arrivai alla fine dell'anno. Il 31 dicembre tirai fuori di tasca il grado, perché a quel punto potevo finalmente indossare il grado di comandante di brigata. E la mattina alle 6 entrai in sala operativa e c'era un sacco di gente, più prevista di quella che normalmente serviva in sala operativa. Mi resi conto che aspettavano qualcosa e tutti che guardavano, e io avevo il grado di colonnello e quindi stavo lì guardando. Poi tutti si avvicinarono e allora io a quel punto tirai fuori di tasca i miei gradi e dissi: il più giovane di voi, che fino adesso si è dimostrato in gamba come se fosse un anziano, mi promuove generale. Nespoli, vieni qui. E lui mi mise i gradi da generale. Io sono diventato generale grazie a Nespoli.
Ho promosso...
Ma ci fu un momento in cui lo stavo per mandare a quel paese, perché siccome lo stimavo e avendo dovuto rinunciare alla sua presenza, gli dissi va bene, adesso facciamo in questa maniera, comunque quando torniamo in Italia, visto che sei abbastanza preparato, già con dei background abbastanza validi, perché non fai il concorso così passi ufficiale? E lui mi disse, io ci rimasi male, è come, è una cosa, ma perché, che cosa vorresti fare? L'astronauta. E io ho dovuto decidere sul momento, lo pulisco subito, aspetto un po' e poi mi resi conto che era serio. E allora approfondii e mi resi conto della determinazione che c'era nella sua volontà, ma eravamo ancora migliaia e migliaia, come abbiamo visto in queste diapositive, di distanza dalla realizzazione di questo scopo. Quando tornammo, gli imposi quasi di fare il concorso per diventare ufficiale, perché se lo meritava, diventò ufficiale e prese subito gli arresti. E da Torino mi disse generale, io ho preso gli arresti perché ho mandato a quel paese il sottotenente che ci stava illustrando come si smonta la pistola. Aveva fatto il Libano, era quello che era, doveva fare come si monta e si smonta la pistola. E siccome l'aveva mandato a quel paese, il tenente gli aveva dato la punizione. E quindi mi disse, vado via. No, devo cercare così. E dopodiché mi resi conto della determinazione e lo dissi va bene. Adesso dico una cosa che non è nota fino a questo momento. Andai dal capo e gli dissi, c'è questo, lasciamolo nell'ambito dell'esercito, senza segni, senza anzianità, senza nulla, ma purché lui senta, dal momento che una delle due forze armate aveva arricciato il naso per il fatto che un sottufficiale, un ufficiale appena promosso dall'esercito tentasse questa avventura, ma mi disse no, non è possibile una cosa del genere. Grazie a questo ex capo di Stato Maggiore è rientrato nell'esercito e adesso è ritornato nei ranghi e noi ne siamo particolarmente fieri. Grazie. Grazie.
Grazie.
Thank you very much.
Bellissimo. Grazie al signor Generale Angioni. It was not prepared, so it's just improvised, which means that we can play also in execution without any notice. And let me say, this has been the greatest conclusion of this happening, and I think that we have linked the new frontier, the dream, the challenge, the scientific, the technology, the innovation, and the vita, that your kind of vita is vitality, innovation, technology, ability. So this is something that is, projecting us toward the best of the future. We have seen also the ties of the past, the great memories, and the great achievement that the Italian Army many years ago, in '82, made not only the Army, but as General Angioni said, was a joint, at that time already, just enterprise, a joint task, a joint mission, and so we are happy to link the past with the present and the future. I think this is the best conclusion. Commander Randy and Mark, Joe, Sergei and Paolo, thank you so much. You are great, and the Italian Army, Italian Armed Forces are very proud to have been had the opportunity to have you with us today. Thank you so much. More together, and best for your future. Thank you.